Bienvenue tout le monde à cette édition de la Politique sans flamme, un partenariat avec l'Institut sur la gouvernance dans le cadre du Future Forum. My name is Alejandra Vargas Garcia, and alongside my lovely colleague Lauren Murphy, we're going to be your co-MCs for this evening.
Thank you very much, and I hope you can see it. We'll cover a wide range of topics, from crowdsourcing for efficient government to the use of virtual reality to alleviate housing challenges. In a minute, you'll hear a bit more about Policy Ignite, but for now, a few ground rules.
Okay, we don't have any rules, but this is the one to keep in mind. There will be no Q&A session for this particular session. In lieu, we're giving you a very generous break, so you can really try to display your comparative advantage to artificial intelligence, which is emotional intelligence, and you can go mingle, facilitate it through alcohol if you're shy. So there we go. Twitter is also encouraged, and if you'll see in your programs, we have all of the handles for our speakers, as well as a hashtag and a handle for Policy Ignite, and we invite you to tweet away.
That's great advice. When in doubt, have another drink. Okay, so to give us a brief explanation of what Policy Ignite is and its format, let's welcome Katie Clancy and Kale Hatch from the Policy Ignite team.
Hi everyone, I'm Kale Hatch.
And I'm Katie Clancy.
I'm here to co-host of Policy Ignite. I see a lot of recurring faces at these events and a lot of people I know. So some of you may already know what Policy Ignite is, but there is some new people here, and that is awesome. Thank you for coming. Policy Ignite is this grassroots organization that was started by a bunch of public servants in the basement of a bar like 7 or 8 years ago to just get people to share ideas freely and openly, without levels, without hierarchies, without pretense, and have brilliant policy conversations in the government Canada. This has evolved to what we have today, which is these marquee events that we put on twice a year. Your energy and commitment matter more than your job title. So that's the spirit we bring to it. And tonight's theme is on bureaucracy hacking. So I think this idea came from a number of different places, but who here has used a life hack? Like organizing your socks with toilet paper rolls or like things like that? Yeah, so it's like that, but for public service. So how can we work around our as opposed to really slow bureaucratic processes? For people who want to make a difference, what are the tools, bureaucracy hacking, things that they want to try out? So hopefully this will be something for everybody. If you are someone who wants to hear about success stories, we have some of those. If you want to hear about new energizing ideas that maybe you can help implement, we have some of that too.
So thank you everyone, and get inspired.
And also, Katie was going to do a shout out for like people who might want to get involved.
Oh yes, I was. Sorry. So we're always looking for volunteers. We're a volunteer-run organization. Everyone does this under this. We're all inspired by great policy. So if you want to get involved.
And now we're going to turn it over to the stars of the show, the grassroots participants. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. All right, so by show of hands, who has been to a Policy Ignite event before? Okay, good. Who is brand new to Policy Ignite? Okay, all right. So for those that are new, hopefully the fact that we have some kind of repeat offenders is a good sign that Policy Ignite is a useful platform. However, we always want to be kind of needs responsive and adaptable. So part of our commitment is to get your feedback live while we're having beers, but also online to see what works, what doesn't work, what are thematics that we should explore. This conversation will be active and it's going to continue for a month. So you can head to Twitter and use the QR code there, and then you're set. You can go back as many times as you want, you can check input, you can add to it, you can vote, and we ask you to share links with your networks. So we get your feedback in real time and make your voice heard through this tool if you don't mind. Alright, si vous êtes prêts, nous commençons par notre premier présentateur, Lauren Hunter. Lauren is the leader of the Talent Cloud Initiative, if you weren't around for last policy night, you missed some of the story. This presentation is actually titled Cheesy Telling Cloud the Origin Story. And the gist of it is that it's a platform for hiring that is trying to radically improve hiring speeds in government and create flexible employment without the precariousness that comes with the gig economy. So Lauren is saving our lives. Buy her beer during the break. Lauren, take it away.
I've got some reservations about why I let Kale talk me into this, but whatever. Okay, so, I guess go. So, a few years back, Val, Gray, Rosita, and I were working in an innovation hub where we built a bunch of cool stuff for government that some of you may have heard of. And everything was going well for a while until we got the message that we had to align all of our projects to the corporate's executive agenda. And at that point, we knew it was time to get out. So we did something no one thought we could pull off. With the support of Alex Benet, we jumped the entire team to TBS where we could work on this crazy idea we had about fixing staffing. But the leap came with a few catches. We had to raise our own money, and we still have to every year, and we had to give up our indeterminate status and move into term positions, risking our careers, our pensions, and our happy relationships with our spouses. All for a crazy idea that no one believed in. But the team has grown across Canada, we're loving the ride, but what we're building and how it works is a long story for another time. Today I got asked to talk about tips for hacking bureaucracy, so that's what I'm going to do. In our experience, the government support system for innovation isn't very strong. There are pockets where it's better, but for most of us, resources remain hard to come by, and executive support depends on personality, not on structural accountability. To get past the failure of the system, we need to own the problem collectively. There's a lot of honor in our public service and a lot of excellent work from the past, but it's also all manner of broken, and it just can't stay like that. It's on all of us to step up to deal with the things we have the capacity to fix, and it's on all of us to stop walking past problems that we can help solve. If you see a way forward where someone else doesn't, you have a responsibility to the public to make that improvement real. If we all get braver about taking action when things are wrong, things are going to get a lot better, a lot faster. And if you can't explain an idea in government in 5 minutes, build it in a month, and fit it into someone's performance agreement, most executives in government are just going to tell you to keep right on walking. So my controversial advice is this: don't even bother trying to explain the really hard stuff. Instead, act like Gandalf. Never sit around in Hobbiton and say, you know what would be great if we all just risked our lives on this crazy venture into Mordor to drop this ring in a volcano we can't get to. Don't do that. Sit around, lure people to Bree, then to Rivendell, then to a fellowship, and then send them off to Mordor. If you're driving the project, you gotta see the end game. Otherwise, you don't, you just trust. Another reason to hone your inner Gandalf is because people are always more comfortable agreeing to familiar, easy ideas, even if they've failed in the past. It's important to make people understand that choosing the quick fix draws resources away from the tough, high-value projects. There aren't two rings. You don't get to take one to Mordor and keep one in your pocket. You put your project as you go. Talent Cloud has built stuff in the open, and that's our best advice. If you build in the open, the crowd will collaborate with you to protect and improve the idea. If the idea's got merit, you won't have to act alone to defend it from corporate alignment and co-option. But let's not be too hard on Boromir, because despite his love of the quick fix, he understood what it involved. For all the rhetoric in government about supporting experimentation, our culture does not have a very clear understanding of the time and energy required. But chances are your innovation project will be expected to deliver results about an hour after it gets approval, and usually months before you get your hands on the resources you actually got approval for. So all of us in this space have the responsibility to communicate the same message. If you give us imaginary support, you will get imaginary results. If you give us real support, you will get real results and real change. It takes a massive amount of energy just to get to the start line for most innovation projects, and it only gets more difficult from there. You will get tired and frustrated. The bureaucracy will knock your project off the rails more times than you can count. And when that happens, you need a team with you. And I don't just mean anyone. I mean people that you will walk through fire for, people who will lie down on the tracks for you. In short, people you love and trust like family. Because it's the alchemy of friendships and intellectual partnerships that carry the really big ideas through to the end. At Talent Cloud, we set out to reimagine government hiring for the digital age, and we've been helped by HR advisors, hiring managers, job applicants, Indigenous communities, and policy experts. We've managed to get the staffing time down to about a third of the government average, and we're aiming for 30-day staffing by the fall. We're super proud of that. We've got a live job site, and we've got a whole pile of amazing talent in the government that otherwise have been completely undiscovered. So come find us online.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Okay, everyone remember to channel your inner Gandalf. Don't wear the ring. Okay, so our next presenter is the founder of a new Ottawa tech startup, CrowdBridge. CrowdBridge helps leaders of large organizations make better decisions by crowdsourcing insights from their employees.
Okay, go. Hello, my name is John Stroud. This is a picture of me when I was a VP at our Crown Corp, CATSA. Great job, loved it, so naturally I quit. And the reason I did it is I thought no matter how effective we were as an executive team, there was plenty that our workforce of 7,000 people knew about why I'm so excited about crowdsourcing. Let me tell you a little story. It's about Sir Francis Galton, who in 1906 goes to his county fair and he sees all of these people lined up to guess the weight of a bull. Now at this time, crowds were thought of as irrational mobs, but Sir Francis was a scientist and he wanted to see how good was the crowd at guessing. And so he collected all of the tickets. There were 787 guesses in total. The average of all of these guesses was 1,197 pounds. So how does that compare to the actual weight of the bull? Well, they did pretty well. They were off by just 1 pound. But more importantly, the crowd did a better job of forecasting than any of the experts in the crowd, like the farmer or the veterinarian. And this idea that crowds could be wise gets popularized in a book by James Serwicki. He summarizes the literature on this, and he says, crowds could be wise if they meet 3 conditions. So the first condition is diversity. At the second thing that you need is independence. So at the fair, if somebody changed her guess about the weight, that didn't have an impact on anybody else. And in the public sector, there are plenty of self-assured people. Just look at this room. And then the third thing you need is a way to aggregate all this information. Sir Francis was able to do that by collecting all of the tickets. But what I don't see in the public sector is a way to aggregate the collective intelligence of public servants, at least not at scale. So how do we make this work? Well, there's a ton of research that shows that crowds are better than experts at making forecasts about what's going to happen. Their views get aggregated into what looks like a stock market ticker. So here's an example from a pharmaceutical company. The employees were able to forecast that this project that had a 90% chance of success dropped over 6 months. They were reluctant to share that information because the culture wasn't open to that. And so culture matters. Lucky for me, I found some leaders in the public sector who've been willing to experiment with crowdsourcing. So these are not endorsements, but early stages, and I just like to give you a flavor of what's coming. 3 things. So the first one is around integrated risk management. Just like with that pharmaceutical example, people know when projects are not working. All you have to do is ask them. Or you can flip that. Instead of asking what's going to go wrong, ask what's going to go right. So I'm working with PCO and ESDC, trying to identify ways to get funding to low-income families for post-secondary education. And the third example is with the Canada School of Public Service. This is going to be coming up. They're going to be doing an innovation exercise. So they'll be getting all of these ideas on how to make improvements. But how do you prioritize all those ideas? We're going to be using crowdfunding, giving a portion of the innovation budget to individual employees and letting them allocate it to the ideas they like the best. So like Kickstarter, the point I'm trying to make is that there's a tremendous amount of talent in the public service. And if there's a way that we can aggregate it at scale, then we can make better decisions for Canadians. I've only scratched the surface on some of this. I'd be happy to talk to any of you after over a beer, or by coincidence, I'm going to be partnering with the IOG to offer a course on crowdsourcing later this month. Probably the 26th, but not sure, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So, listening to your employees and creating an enabling environment. Good lessons. Now, we're moving on to a dynamic duo of Cedric Jean-Marie and Nikita Grover. We're going to give us a presentation about Polis, moving to a people-first policy environment. So, in Polis, that would be the first adventure. That was why workers will kill everyone. But we're going to hear a little bit about it. And all right, guys, come in.
I guess let's go. So the term polis, historically refers to ancient Greek city-states, where citizens gathered in city squares to discuss the issues of the day and make decisions jointly about their collective security. But over millennia, direct citizen engagement became increasingly difficult as state territories expanded, populations grew and diversified, and people within one country spoke many different languages. This is an issue of scale.
The way governments engage their publics is ripe for digital disruption. Today, Polis refers to digital, smart, and scalable public engagements of large, diverse, and geographically spread out populations. In 2018, we collapsed a version of the platform that is GC compliant and moves us towards digital open government.
The problem we wanted to solve was how to support two official languages in one conversation without any delay in time or costs with translation, no matter how many participants. It's what we like to call public engagement.
Lots of virtuous hacking of blockbuster mindsets and 5 test drives in 2018 delivered a high-quality data-driven solution that supports inclusion across a heterogeneous.
Participants drive the conversation by adding statements and voting, agree, disagree, or pass on the list of statements. By leveraging existing online habits with quick and easy interaction, inclusive and nuanced data on policy issues. And notice that there are 3 times more voters than contributors.
Linguistic inclusion was achieved by integrating a free artificial intelligence solution for official language. The ratio of English to French statements is 87 to 23 with no time delays or costs. The translation accuracy rate is 77%. And best of all, the platform can now scale to any language, including indigenous ones.
Now, while surveys yield low response rates and contribute to consultation fatigue, Polis piques people's interests. It lowers the friction of participation and leaves users feeling in control of how they participate.
From anywhere in Canada, participants can drive the conversation. They add and vote as many statements as they want, visit as often, when, and as long as they want, and even control the language in which they want to interact.
So here are the results of our first 3-week pilot. The 753 people co-created a rich data set containing 577 statements in both official languages, and they voted on average on 58 statements. More people, not a problem.
Polis yields dynamic data at any scale. Adding statements widens the conversation through the inclusion of different perspectives. This contributes a qualitative facet, while voting is a quantitative way to deepen the conversation.
As data is generated, this visualization quickly surfaces affinity groups and voting patterns based on how each person votes against each statement. And the open and unstructured nature of the platform makes it difficult to game by humans or bots. You can also quickly see where tension resides. when every statement and every vote counts as a legitimate perspective, affinities, and relationships.
Data literacy was a key challenge which should guide our use of POLIS data in policy contexts. For us, POLIS is connected equally to public engagement and open government. It can serve as a concrete enabler and integrator of GC literacy in design, data, digital inclusion.
Phase of incubation and acceleration.
POLIS is both a step into the future and towards a more participatory path. To meet today's challenges of complexity and inclusion, POLIS is a digital gateway to re-envision engagement, evidence, policymaking, and even democracy itself.
See.
Thank you so much, Cedric and Datika. That was so sweet that you hugged at the end. Just so everybody knows, the code for participating in the POLIS, you can find it on Twitter, and both of their Twitter handles are under their name. So our next speaker is Vice President of Deloitte's Real Estate Advisory Practice, and he's dialing live-ish from Fredericton, New Brunswick. The presentation is titled Bureaucracy Hacking, the Use of Virtual Reality by Departments Could Help Alleviate the Affordable Housing Challenge. Please welcome Bob Perkins via telephone.
Avatar, or a hologram, or a better looking, younger version.
Live-ish.
Please continue to hold.
Okay, let's go. I really wish I could be there live tonight, but try to imagine me there as an avatar, or a hologram, or a better looking, younger version of the real me. I'm going to tell you tonight how the use of virtual reality by government departments may solve the affordable housing challenge. Imagine that. Federal real property demands have grown over the last 40 years. Technology disruptions such as mobile phones, internet, and teleconferencing have all had their effect. These technologies have not drastically reversed the growth of demand of physical space, however. Telecommuting, if properly executed with an agile work environment, will definitely reverse the trend. Growth and use in the advancement of virtual reality will accelerate telecommuting to a level where the interaction between people could be carried out in virtual offices versus physical offices. Imagine the use of holograms and avatars in the working environment where a virtual interaction is actually better than face-to-face. How is this possible? The meeting can be attended in hyper-personal or more social than you have in the real world. As an avatar, you always look the way you want to look. You never have gestures that are inappropriate because you have algorithm filters that solve for this. You can look at multiple participants at the same time in the eyes. These interactions will be in real time and will have all participants feeling the human connection without actual physical connection. Companies like Walmart are using this today to conduct real-time training. Others use it for teleconferencing so that they can collaborate on designs, campaigns, or deal with clients who are remote. With large-scale adoption, the need to be together in a common physical space will be severely reduced or perhaps eliminated. Imagine no more physical workplace would be required effectively. How would this work in government? Implementation would be incremental. Smaller groups who work together without a client-facing obligation would be the best to advance the program before mass adoption could be warranted. I would personally nominate this guy to be the champion of this initiative. If you agree with me, put your hand up. You can put your hands down because I actually can't see you. Roadblocks would certainly include the further advancement of the technology. We will be there soon. Teleworking as a concept still requires a certain leap of faith as it relates to the trust of employees working while unsupervised. In the end, the uses of virtual reality are growing but further development of the technology will truly be a game changer in the education, travel industries, and of course, in the workplace. When advanced, these interactions will be in real time and will have all the participants feeling the human connection, which is the missing link. Will we see the matrix be developed for the pursuit of good in the next 20 years versus evil? Likely in some form. Imagine not having to go to the meeting in person, but actually being there. Imagine walking through the halls of Place du Portage without having to park or take a bus. Imagine chatting with clients in person, but they're not really in front of you, and you're in the comfort of your own home. What will all this lead to, and how long will it take us to get there? Can we bridge the gap between rural and urban hiring in government? Will there be a workplace virtual 2.0 someday? With the physical workplace rendered obsolete, the question always arises, what do we do with existing real property assets? What do we do with these great buildings? Will downtown Ottawa become a ghost town? With concentration in urban centers, having good transportation, converting this building, and this becoming your home. Will virtual reality solve all the government's problems once the technology is far advanced and everyone is equipped? Maybe, but only if we take a leap of faith and the technology is used for good and not for evil. Thank you.
Alright, so Bob is not around, but just you can use POTUS to let him know if you were terrified by that notion, or if you will secretly have an avatar that looks a lot like Keanu Reeves. Now, if you look under your tables, there's 2 pills. If you choose the red one, we don't have the technology. We're holding the mic to the telephone, so bear with us in a few years. Alright, moving on to the next presentation. But seriously, use POTUS to give Bob some feedback, because that was a very interesting presentation. Alright, Gerard Gatien is next. And his presentation is titled Inclusive Government. He's the Vice President of Learning at the Institute on Governance, where he develops curriculum to meet the leadership demands of the public service. So if you feel leadership is failing the public service, just blame it on Gerard during the break. All right, take it away. No pressure, Gerard.
Bonsoir, good evening, sac passé, go. So, inclusive government, it's an oxymoron. Because of course, government is not meant to be inclusive. By virtue of the rules and the policies and the HR applications and the values and systems, it excludes. So what do we mean really by inclusive government? And when should government actually try to be inclusive? Well, you know, it matters for government to think about inclusivity impact on us. The first one is trust in government. Most Canadians do not believe that government can solve. You that are working for government or thinking about working for government, you're going to walk into a system where most Canadians do not believe you have the capacity to actually deal with the issues that need to be dealt with. Well, what does that? StatsCan said in about 50 years, close to 30% of Canadians will be born somewhere else or come from second generation. And if you look at Toronto, Vancouver, you realize that this is happening now. And we need to understand where we have been to have a sense of where we need to go. Because all this it wasn't a long time ago that someone who looked like me could not legally immigrate to Canada. Because there was a conventional wisdom that because I was born in the Caribbean and my nostrils are so big that in winter when I breathe the cold air, it will freeze my lungs. So whether or not it was intentional or not intentional, we are still living in a world where we have migrated from the goals of employment equity. Employment equity, at least you could do something about it. And I would say to you invariably, it worked well for white women. But when it comes to indigenous peoples, when it comes to people that have my skin tone, people with disability, nowhere to be found. As a matter of fact, in an age of equity, Canada in more than 150 years has never been able to produce one black deputy minister. So there are barriers in the system that we need to overcome. And inclusive government now is much more than a buzzword because it deals fundamentally with moving from pluralism to populism. And how does inclusive fight populism? Because populism at its very root recognizes an us and them. And the us in Doug Ford's case could be linguistic, French people. In Legault, it could be religious. For Trump, it is racial. It doesn't matter how it is expressed. In France, it's the elite versus the non-elite. But fundamental to that is an us and them. And in that conversation, truth doesn't matter. Consider the case of Earth is flat. That it is a hoax to believe that the Earth is round. Well, in that world of post-truth, in that world where it is us and them, in that world of fake news, how do we solve the problems that we have at a time when we need new leadership in government, inspired leadership? Every single one of the colleagues who preceded me either used the word diversity or inclusion. And the question I'm asking you today is, when will these faces be the faces of the people leading the federal public service? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gerard. It's a very powerful presentation for us to end on. For the break, you can come back after. So just so you know, we're going to have a 40-minute break now, and if you could return by 8:15, we'll get to the other half of the presentation. Thank you.